It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
Okay, James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hosea. It's my humble pleasure to share your platform with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So James, you're right. You're right in the epicenter of what has been an international movement based on what happened to George Floyd in your city, Minneapolis, on May 25th of this year, 2020. We have seen a groundswell of change and support, and most importantly, change in attitudes in terms of recognizing the sense of urgency in terms of how to deal with race relations, particularly as it relates to police relations. You want to talk about, from your standpoint, what you have seen in Minneapolis, and also
Absolutely.
I also want you to touch on, because I remember you and I talking about this when this first jumped off, like within probably within hours, if not within 24 hours of when this happened. But this really struck a chord because of where it took place in relation to a special place in your childhood. Let's start from that.
Yes. The incident, murder of George Floyd, happened one block away from where I grew up playing youth sports. It's Phelps Park, which is on 39th in Chicago. George Floyd was murdered on 38th in Chicago. It struck a chord with me because I felt violated. I felt very violated because this heinous murder was done in what I view as my house. And it was then and there where I just decided to no longer will I stand on the sidelines, but to immerse myself fully into the efforts for more equality and justice for African Americans in the Twin Cities as well as the United States.
Very good, brother. And I have to applaud you, man. I've been watching you on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and I can't tell you how it warms my heart to see a brother, a Black man, stepping up to dealing with a crisis in his community. But what made it really special, this is a brother I know and love. This is a brother who we go back to Drake University.
Yes, we do.
And more specifically, you and I were part of the patrol system that was created at Drake University in response to some situations that were happening on campus. And we joined an organization to support campus security. So you and I were on patrol, and I saw you doing that same thing.
Yes.
I saw you doing that same thing in Minneapolis. And let's talk about that.
Certainly. You're right. We do have a long history, and we have a history of protecting those that need to be protected, whether it's on our campus or our neighborhood or just our society in general. But during the height of the unrest here in Minneapolis, obviously there was a lot of destruction being done of businesses, burning the businesses and destroying businesses and things like that. The problem was that it was affecting African American businesses a lot more than non-African American businesses. So it got to the point where literally a few nights, community leaders, business owners, pastors, various leaders in the communities, we literally had to go out and stand guard to protect the last few standing African American businesses in Minneapolis. It's not something that I don't think any of us are real enthused that we had to do that, but at the same time, it was a matter of people in the community rallying to save what was left of Minneapolis.
James, what was so different about this incident. I was with you in Minneapolis on July 6, 2016. I was visiting your family.
Correct.
Uh, 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 Philando Castile, right?
Yes,
But
yes, absolutely.
This, I remember you said, I've had enough. What made this different?
First of all, not to diminish any of the um, concerns regarding Philando Castile, because I think we all agree that uh, it was just, it was devastating in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But what made this different is, for me personally, I guess that's how I can speak best, is first of all, it was so close to home. Secondly, the way it was done, just the fact that it's like, to Derek Chauvin, the murdering officer, it was almost nonchalant. It's almost like it was just business as usual. And the saying is that if a person won't stand for something, then he'll fall for anything. And it is easier to just go about our happy lives and keep to ourselves. That's the easier thing to do. But at some point, I think a lot of us get to where we're at that line that they've crossed, and once they get past that line, then we have to do what we have to react. In other words, or act. I guess act is a better word, because from this, we'll talk about later. For me, it's not a matter of just protest. I try to take it much further than that, addressing more of the root of a lot of the issues of brutality that we got going on here and in the nation.
What I find disturbing about this situation is the fact that I visited, I've been to Minneapolis twice in the last 5 years. Spent at least 5 days each time I was there, right? Good amount of time. And I go around the city. I see harmony. I see interracial couples. I see peace. It doesn't seem to match the reality of what's there.
What a significant point. Man, that is significant. There's so many layers to that onion. Minneapolis in and of itself is I think, a little bit of a unique place. And actually, the Minneapolis that I grew up in back in the late 60s and the 70s and so forth was closer to that picture that you just painted. Unfortunately, just through time, there's been work going on behind the scenes with white supremacists and things like that. They've been stacking the police force. They've also had diligent efforts as far as stacking the Police Federation Union, which is a big problem because sometimes the mayor and the chief will have good intentions, but only to be stopped by the Police Federation. So Minneapolis right now, to me, is a microcosm of the hypocrisy in America, because America paints itself as a benevolent society, a society that's for peace and humanity. But actually, underneath that, the real America has been brutal for 400 years. If we just look at the facts, and it's been in some form or another. And Minneapolis, to me, is a microcosm of that on the outside. It paints this pretty picture, but if you peel back a few layers of the onions, you can see some very disturbing things going on.
Okay, Shep. James, on that note, we're gonna take a brief public service announcement break, and we'll be right back.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Welcome back to this segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. We are with James Holmes out of Minneapolis, and he's sharing with us from ground zero what's going on in Minneapolis. He was there from the outset. He's a community leader in Minneapolis, and he's giving us his insight in terms of where we are today. Thanks again, James.
Thank you once again, Hosea.
Okay, bro. So when we were in between the break, we had a couple of conversations, and one of the conversations we want to definitely tackle is what you told me was not a little, it was quite disturbing. The fact that at one point in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there was a certain level of racial harmony that was moving in a certain direction. And then it appears that there was a strategic effort to move things in a backwards, right? Which is kind of what's happening now in society from what I can see in America. So what happened in Minneapolis is a microcosm of what's happening now. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because now we can better see that this is a concerted effort. I'm not sure who's orchestrating this, but it certainly is anti-American.
Well, I guess my take on that is that white extremists, they never stop working. I mean, we did go through a point in time in Minneapolis and in the United States to where their voices were not heard very loud. And when they did try to be, as we call it, daredevils and come out, like David Dukes and things like that, right, then they pretty much be put in check. But what has happened is people like you and me and so forth that have been advocates of racial harmony, maybe we've gotten a little laxed and just assumed a lot as far as the progress in the United States. But while we're assuming that the country is still progressing, the white extremists, they're not taking any breaks. They're still working very hard behind the scenes. And you can see right now that, some of their work is showing up. Of course, that's assisted a lot with who we have in office right now. But nonetheless, it's going on all over the country. But and even Minneapolis, it was done on a fairly low-key level for many years, stacking the police force and stacking the Minneapolis Police Federation Union and so forth. And then now, if you really look in, the courts are being stacked also, if you're paying attention to that. So there's a lot to be concerned about.
When you say the courts, you're referring to the judges that are being appointed.
Correct? Yes. A lot of very far right-wing judges are being appointed, and that's going to affect things. It already starting to, and it will for a number of years.
Okay. So your direct response, in addition to standing guard and helping to protect the businesses in your community that were being burned down, you took a bold step in creating an organization to combat the challenges that you find in your community. You want to talk about the Black Lion Foundation, James?
Sure, yes. With the Black Lion Foundation, that is designed to address the economic disparities primarily in the Twin Cities. Because to me, a lot of what we see right now, as far as the political unrest, the brutality going on with police, and even the brutality that we have in our own communities against each other, that is not the root. Those are the symptoms. I view it as a lot more effective to address the root of the issue. And the root of the issue is economics. It's always been economics. I mean, it's been economics since 1619 when slavery started. Slavery was not necessarily started because white people hate black people. I mean, did they? Probably, yeah. But that's not the reason why it started. The reason why it started was because of economics. There was a reverse transfer of wealth. So you had a capitalistic society that normally in theory anyway. The harder we work, in theory, the more that we should earn. But during slavery, obviously, African Americans were working very hard, and everything that they earned or would have earned was transferred to their white masters, owners. So a reverse transfer of wealth. And it's been about 18 generations of that being passed down. And right now, today, even African Americans are at a distinct disadvantage economically. We have less opportunities for jobs. We have less businesses. The majority of the businesses owned by the Black community are not Black owned. That money leaves the community. Matter of fact, some of the other ethnic groups, I won't bother to use the name right now, have a nickname for African Americans, and it's called liquid gold, because they feel like money is like liquid gold, goes right through our hands. So my focus is on economics, on getting more jobs for our young people, as well as starting more businesses. And every business that we start, instead of there being zero going into the community, that money turns statistically 6 to 8 times, could make a dramatic difference. We're going to put 60 new entrepreneurs in the next 12 months, and we'll do that for several years. But just doing simple math, they're using $5,000 a month as far as their profits. That's an additional $3.6 million annually into the Twin City urban area. Times that by 10 years, that's 36 million. Times that by 20 years, that's 72 million. And that's just us helping ourselves, which is what we're going to need, because if we're standing by waiting for someone else to give us a handout, first of all, it's not going to happen. And secondly, even if they give us a handout, it traditionally doesn't work. Now, I'm a believer in hand ups, so we can help ourselves. And we want to create multipliers. All these young businesses are multipliers. Everything I'm trying to do with the Black Line Foundation, I wanted to multiply. We're so, we've gone with out much for so long. Sometimes we feel like we can do a lot with almost anything. I believe in this so much. The funding is all straight from my bank account.
Yeah,
I have no
I was
outside
about to
funding
ask you about that, not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
How are you funded? How are is your nonprofit organization? Are you being supported? Because I know millions and millions of dollars have come into Minneapolis to help to combat the challenges that your city is facing. Have you been able to position your nonprofit into receiving some of those resources?
You are correct. Hundreds of millions of dollars have come in to various organizations. Unfortunately, ours has not been one of the organizations that's received it. We've received no public or private funding. GoFundMe, I think I received $150 basically. I think part of it is a lot of people don't know about us. Not enough people know what we're doing. Our approach is creative and it's actionable. I've seen for so long just fancy speeches and rhetoric, but not much really being done. And the actual community itself has been ignored, and it's still ignored. The United States in general doesn't know about it. The world doesn't know about it. But North Minneapolis and urban South Minneapolis has been ignored and is still ignored. So hundreds of millions of dollars have come in, and that's leaving. None of it really gets to the bottom rung of the ladder. I mean, I can sit here and I can spend time complaining about it, or I can try to do something about it. So as of right now, I'm funding this out of my bank account. That's not sustainable. My father taught me hand up is much better than a handout. So my goal here is so that enough positive things will be seen, enough jobs created, enough businesses will start, that at some point, people that are looking for solutions will jump on board.
Okay. Well, James, I want to thank you again for stepping up and taking a leadership role in your community, doing what needs to be done to help to galvanize support, to help inspire young people to take initiatives, start businesses. All those projects are wonderful, brother. What we're going to do is take one more public service announcement break, and then we'll be right back.
King.
Go fish. In your face, in your face.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Hi, my name is Hosea James II, and welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform, where we showcase urban superheroes here in the Bronx and around the world. We have a very special person, a very special dad. We had him on our show before, and we have him back again because he's that good. He's that good. All right, my brother.
Thank you for inviting me back again. Thank
absolutely,
you.
brother, absolutely. We didn't get a chance to talk about Orain Barrett.
Yes.
I didn't even introduce you by your name, Brother Barrett. I know everybody should know you by now, or
Yes.
will know you in the very near future because of all the wonderful things you're doing with your family, and you have a product that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the last episode.
Yes.
So just talk to us about Cool Nerd.
So Cool Nerd is a career readiness company. And when you think about the term cool nerd, I always say cool people are creatives, right? They don't walk within the fine line that everyone else walks. They find ways to kind of be outside the box. But creativity is what we basically connect with when they say cool. And a nerd is a person that's passionate about a certain subject. We could talk about Pharrell and his passion for music. We could talk about Zuckerberg and his passion for IT or technology. So when you take passion and creativity to put together, a cool nerd is a person that find creative ways of going after their passion or making money from what they love doing. And that's what the brand is doing. So now when we look at our young Black and Latino students and their lack of exposure to careers or career professionals, because those professionals, when they start making money, they move out the community, we're saying they don't have examples that they can aspire to.
Right.
So what Cool Nerd does is that we say, okay, how do we get our students ready for the workforce? One, we have to basically show them people in jobs and in companies. And what we do is that we connect them with employers, especially where these jobs are in high demand. There's certain industries that are struggling to find skilled talent.
That's correct.
And we're saying, okay, you know what? Let's get these kids exposed to those industries, exposed to those jobs, and hopefully their skin color will not be the barrier because there's a need for that skill set that they have, and these employers will hire them. And so far, a number of companies are really receptive to what we're doing, and we are a startup. It's a startup company. But yeah, there are a number of them are ready to say, let's roll the dice with you.
That's
and
amazing.
And can you help us to farm a number of diverse students that we can have as future employees?
Great story.
Yep.
But what's even more impressive about this whole journey that you're on is that you made the transition from being in the corporate world
Oh yeah.
to an entrepreneur, right? Because you had a passion.
Yes.
And you were willing to take that risk to really pursue that passion. Let's talk about that transition, brother.
Ooh, wow. I always say if I had known the realities of being an entrepreneur, I wouldn't have done it. As a matter of fact, I always say 50% of these businesses that you see nowadays, if they were aware of what the reality is, they wouldn't have done it. But I don't regret it, right? So I was in investment banking, working on commercial real estate deals up to, my largest deal was a $374 million deal.
Wow.
$212 million deal, hotels in New York City. But I always wanted to be a person that had something that I could say is mine in the future.
Right.
So eventually I decided to leave and invest in a company and basically take it to the next direction. And that company was Cool Nerd. And I am on year 5 now, taken to the next level. And we pivoted. We had to. So we started off in the direction as a social fashion brand. And we said, you know what, that's not as impactful as we need. So we pivoted now where we're incorporating technology and service, basically now to create a workforce for tomorrow.
That's dope, man. That's dope. And you being an MIT grad, that's very commendable. And being able to transfer that work ethic. We talked about work ethic, right? So you've had to have had a certain work ethic to get into MIT, right? So now you're transferring that type of energy into developing your own business, man. And you're modeling that same attitude for your children who are doing the same thing.
I'm going to say to you, I remember when I was interviewing with the faculty at MIT, and I told them, what it takes someone 2 hours to learn, if it takes me 6 hours, guess what? I'm going to put the 6 hours in. And that has been my mode of thinking since I've been a child, right? It's something that's been instilled in me from both of my parents. Work 2 times harder than the next man, because the minute you take it for granted, someone's always going to try and take your lunch. So getting into that school, whether it was any school or any job opportunities, I've worked at Intel, I've got into UBS, these are top companies, top firms, but I had to work hard, right? And I believe that. So applying your education, applying your knowledge, but also you gotta be ready to put in for the fight. And that's something that I believe in. And for my boys right now, a lot of people feel that you know, what I'm doing is a little too hard for them, let them just have fun, which they do, right? We try to find that balance, but I want to make sure that they're prepared for tomorrow.
Right.
Because when I saw my peers at MIT and the backgrounds they came from, I know that they're going to be very successful. And I say, okay, how do I get my boys prepared so they can run on equal level with these individuals once they enter college and or the workforce? So now the preparation is going into them to get them there.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. You told me a story about an incident that took place on the 6 train. Where, where
All right.
And let me say this, and we're kindred spirits in this respect. I love the fact that you love to connect with your people, man.
Yes.
And there was a time when you were working down in Wall Street or in that downtown area, and rather than take the Metro North, you want to take the 6 train because you felt a disconnect. Talk about that disconnect, and then if we have time, you got 2 minutes, if you can give us a brief about that story, because you had me cracking up with that one.
All right, so yes, I worked on Wall Street and living in Westchester. The biggest challenge I find for the middle class black family is finding communities where you have good education. So, okay, we moved to Westchester. Okay, I'm not going to fight against that. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I was connected with my community. So I'll take either the 5 or the 6 train, which is the number trains from the Bronx going into Manhattan. It was enjoyment for me because, again, I get to see my people, get to see the styles, and just felt that energy from the community which I grew up in, right? Yeah. But there was one incident which you want me to share where I remember I saw a young man and a young lady get on the train, and here it is that the first seat became available, and the brother sit down. And I was just watching, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's something that I know that I couldn't have gotten away with, right? And I'm teaching my boys right now how to open the door for a woman, right? How to basically and it's chivalry, right? Some people are against it, but I feel it's something that a man should do, right?
Absolutely.
Even though, yes, we are in the Me Too movement and such, and women can do anything a man can do, I agree with that. But chivalry shouldn't die during this process, and I want to make sure that my boys continue that as well.
That's amazing, man, and that's a great story. And I do want to say, brother, you know, keep up the good work, bro, and spread it, because I keep getting ideas. You told me about the family meetings that you guys are doing, which is dope. You told me about the couples getting together, which is also dope in terms of just being able to share positive energy, with your family and then with couples like-minded.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing, man. So you're a visionary. You are, man. You're a visionary.
Thank you very
brother.
much. Thank you.
Keep that vision flowing, bro.
Yes, only through execution. Everything is through execution. We can talk all day, but if you're not putting the energy and the work behind it, execution is key to everything for success. That's what we're about.
My brother.
Thank you,
man.
Blessings. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And we'll be right back.